Joining me now to discuss this, House Majority Whip, South Carolina Congressman James Clyburn. Congressman Clyburn, thank you so much for being with me today. I really appreciate it. I do want to start right there and on the critical timeline of this, because as you know, Americans cannot get this relief, those direct payments, fast enough. We know that the House sent the bill, now has the bill, I should say, just got it from the Senate. So when are you expecting a final vote, today or tomorrow?
Well, thank you very much for having me, Christian. The fact of the matter is we are working on that bill right away. We plan to vote on it at least by tomorrow. And one of the reasons is we have to go through our processes here, go before the Rules Committee, bring it to the floor, having whatever discussions we need to have. But we'd like to do that later this afternoon. But if we can't get it to this afternoon, we'll do it first thing in the morning. I think the House will come in session around 9 o'clock. So we want to get this bill to the president for his signature before the end of the week.
Okay, so we'll hold you to that. By the end of the week, when can Americans expect to see those direct payments, Congressman Clyburn? Because as you know, that's really what so many Americans, millions, are focused on and frankly relying on right now.
Well, I'm very hopeful that by the beginning of next week, some relief can be realized. As you know, there's a process that we have to go through. We can't the president just can't toss the money out once he signs a bill. We got to go through the machinery of government and make sure that it's done efficiently, effectively, and I'm hopeful equitably.
And so, but you think some of those direct payments could start to go out next week, just to be very clear there?
That's my thought. But, you know, I used to run a state agency, and I know what it's like being an administrator. We're legislating here, we'll sign the bill. It will be at the mercy of the administrative process, which I hope will be done, as I said, with those 3 E's I mentioned earlier.
I want to talk to you about the fact that this bill did not get any Republican support. And as you know, you've been listening to the criticism, as we all have been, a number of Republicans saying the bill's just not targeted enough. It's not all targeted to COVID relief. They cite the fact that some of the funds go to infrastructure projects as well as other initiatives. So what do you say to that criticism that this bill is not targeted enough?
Well, I would say simply this. This bill was put together in order to rescue a lot of lives and livelihoods. In this bill, around $5 billion for black farmers who we know has suffered significantly over the last several years. Before I came to Congress, almost 30 years ago, I ran the South Carolina Commission for Farm Workers. And I can tell you, I know what was happening to black farmers that were discriminated against, and they've never been made whole. And they have had their problems exacerbated by COVID-19. So just because it didn't start with COVID-19 doesn't mean it was not affected by COVID-19. So doing something for black farmers here is exactly what needs to be done. And they, as I said, suffered disproportionately because of COVID-19. And the same thing happens with other things as well. So when you look at this bill, you have to be a little bit compassionate to know in order to do what is necessary, what we know has been in our past. So the Republicans not voting for this simply demonstrates once again that they do not wish to do right by black farmers, do not wish to do right by people who have lost their pensions. Yes?
Congressman, as you know, President Biden has said that one of his key goals is to try to get legislation passed with bipartisan support. What does the lack of Republican support here say about your chances of getting anything done and along bipartisan lines when you try to tackle bigger things like immigration reform, climate change? Are any hopes of bipartisanship dead moving forward?
Well, I would hope not, but my Republican friends are doing what they think is necessary to win primaries. What we're doing is what's necessary to do what needs to be done for the American people. 77% of the American people support this legislation. And I'll guarantee you that that includes Republicans and independents. So this legislation is bipartisan. It is not going to be held hostage by partisanship. And that's what's going on here. If my Republican friends only had to worry about running in general elections, they would all be on board. But because they know there's a small minority that seem to have an outsized impact in their primary contests, that's why we can't get the kind of support that's needed. But the American people support what we're doing.
Let me ask you about something that obviously is a critical issue for you, and that is voting rights. The bill that passed through the House, it comes against the backdrop of 43 states considering bills that would make it harder to vote. That's according to the Brennan Center for Justice, including in a state like Georgia, where they're trying to restrict and eliminate early voting on Sundays, even mail-in voting in some areas. How do you get this passed through the Senate, Congressman, when you have senators like Joe Manchin, Kyrsten Sinema, signaling they might not be on board with this? How do you do it without getting rid of the filibuster?
Well, I think that we have to remember that the filibuster, which came in, according to my research, 1917, it was used very sparingly. The filibuster didn't start being used the way it's used now until after the 1954 Supreme Court decision, Brown v. Board of Education, when the filibuster started being used in order to stop voting and civil rights. We know that. And I don't believe that Kyrsten Sinema or Joe Manchin are going to allow themselves to be used to stop people from voting. So they may be. How
do you get them on board, Congressman? How are you going to get them on board? They're two critical votes. How do you make sure you get them on board?
Appeal to their sense of fairness. And I would hope that they will not allow themselves to be party to efforts to keep African Americans, keep Hispanic Americans from voting. And that's what this will be all about, or to suppress their votes. I just don't think they're going to do that. And I think that Joe Manchin has made that very clear, that if Republicans insist upon doing this, he's not going to be there for them. Joe Biden doesn't want to get rid of the filibuster. That's fine. But I know he wants to see African Americans vote. I know he's going to do whatever he can to ensure that there's no voter suppression taking place. And so to the extent that that can happen, you need to modify this filibuster. And I'm going to be meeting with senators later today on this subject. I just don't think Democratic senators are going to be in the business of denying Black and brown people the right to vote.
All right, Congressman James Clyburn, thank you so much for giving us your perspective on all of those critical issues. Really appreciate it. Good to be with you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank all of you out there.
Thank you as always.
Thanks to at home.
Thanks for watching.
Thank you so much for letting us into your homes during these extraordinary times.